welcome to the Knitrovert Podcast. My name is Jannetje and I'm coming to you from Gouda in the Netherlands. Welcome to everyone who is joining here for the first time, and also welcome to everyone who is here for the third episode and has been following me from the beginning. I'm so happy that you guys are here today, and I can't wait to share what I've been working on for the last little bit more than a week. I didn't podcast on Tuesday as I planned because I had some appointments, and when I got home I fell asleep on the couch. So that didn't happen, and after that my entire week was fully booked, and I have been really looking forward to some introvert time in the meantime. I did talk a bit last time about the Black Lives Matter movement, but I did not mention that I also put some links in the description box where people can donate money or sign petitions. So I will again be doing that this week because it is an ongoing matter that we cannot stop working on. It just requires more work for a longer period of time, and that is very important to do. This week I don't really have a lot to show. I've been mainly working on some things that I actually frogged back out again, so I don't really have that much to show for it. I also didn't have a lot of time to knit. I have been ill for more than a year now, and that means that I don't always have as much energy as I would like to do things. So some days I am just on the couch and kind of comatose on the couch, but that doesn't matter. I can knit when I do have energy, and I love it. So this week I finished an object, and I showed it last week, and I absolutely thought it was super cute, but I think the cuteness got taken up a notch. Because this is the finished product, and I put on buttons. They're basic wooden buttons, but what I love about them is that they're in a rainbow. And I especially love it since it's Pride Month, and I am a queer person. I love representing gay pride. This is for a baby girl. That's why I decided to start with pink, and then I went to a red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. This pattern was a lot of fun to make. This is the Lil Dahlia pattern, and I'll put the maker and the yarn that I used on the side here. The pattern, you get five different kinds of patterns with the same yoke in for one paid for pattern. So that's quite a lot of bang for your buck. That's what I love about the pattern. However, I did think that it was, because of that, it's a very big pattern. You get, I think, about 20 pages, which makes it a bit overwhelming sometimes. But it was relatively easy to follow. It was quick to knit, which I love, and I think the recipient will be very happy with it. I will be shipping it out soon. I got the card from the parents, so I now have an address that I can send it to again, because recently my phone died and all my contacts were gone for some reason. So I have that back again. The different threads that I used were something that I don't have many threads, or I don't have many colors, but my grandma, who passed away a few years ago, did. She sewed a lot, and she had this kind of fishing case that was full of different threads of yarn, but actually I didn't use that. You have these weird thread collections. Wait, let me get it. So this is what I'm talking about. You usually get these in button sewing cases, and they just have all kinds of different colors of threads so that you can match your shirt. And I used this because pretty much all the colors I needed were in there except for orange. I am not someone who really likes orange. I'm a ginger if I don't paint my hair, and that's the reason that I don't really like wearing orange myself. But yeah, I luckily my grandmother did have orange in her case, and I was able to use the entire rainbow for this project. So I really love doing that. And I'm kind of out of breath now because I ran up the stairs. And ever since I was ill, my from corona, my lung capacity hasn't been what it's used to. So give me a minute. But yeah, let me just show it one more time. This is the finished product, and I just think it's really cute. I am actually thinking of making more. I'm thinking of making a basic blue one for one of my nephews for Christmas maybe. And it's just very soft. It's a very satisfying thing to knit. If I re-knit the sweater, I will knit it using a stick, because I really did not enjoy having to go back and forth, especially in the yoke, because it's a lace pattern, which is fine, but then it's also a lace pattern with knits and purls in it at the same time, and that was a bit confusing for me. It went fine, but it just meant that I had to pay more attention than I wanted. So I think having a stick in there might help, because then I can read the pattern better. So yeah, that's the Lil Dahlia sweater. The next actually finished object is something that I also cast on since last time we saw each other, because I had some leftover yarn, and last time I talked that I wanted to knit a pair of socks with the leftover yarn from the baby sweater I knit. So, oh dear. Something fell on the floor. Usually I edit this a lot more, but I'm still quite busy and I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed, so I'm going to try and not edit this as much, so that means that a lot of oopsies will remain in this episode, but yeah. Let's see how this goes. So, yeah, I cast on a new project, and they were a pair of socks, because I wanted to knit a pair of socks from the leftovers. And this is the finished product. They're socks, and they didn't really end up the way I thought they were. Just to show you, I have two. They're both finished. I didn't think that I was going to run out of yarn over here already, but I did. And I was praying that I would have enough for the rest. And that worked out. So I'm very happy about that. I knit them from the toe up, which I usually don't do. But I figured I would, since I want to be able to use every bit of yarn for this project. Let's see, I did also, I put in these chevron purl stitches all over. This is something that I just came up with while I was knitting, because I wanted a bit of interest while knitting it. And I'm actually quite happy with it. It's enough to kind of give it a bit of texture. And even though the yarn is busy, it's still kind of visible. I didn't really knit it for visibility. I mainly knit it for this texture itself, because I love knitting textured stitches for the feeling of them. Yeah, I also used Eye of Partridge heel. That is from the Hermione's Everyday Socks pattern. That is a free pattern on Ravelry. And since I knitted toe up, I had to improvise a bit for the heel turn, because I couldn't remember it by the top of my head, but I think it went pretty well. You can't really see it, it's not that obvious. And I'm actually quite pleased with how it turned out. Yeah, I'm actually very happy. The main reason that I was actually self-assured to do this toe up is because I have knit this kind of pattern top down a lot of times before. I really love a heel flap sock, because they just fit me best. And by knitting them more often, I know that from the part where the gusset ends or starts, basically this part for me is 62 rows in my basic 2.5mm needles with 60 stitches per row. I just know that 62 rows is my preferred length for the sock, which makes it easy because then I can also just do it the other way around and start the gusset, and then I know when I have to start the heel. So that's great. I only had yarn for about 6.5 rows of ribbing, and that worked out in a way that the half row was at the heel, which is a lower part, so that rises up a bit more than the front, which was great. That actually worked out perfectly. So yeah, these are my socks. I'm really happy that I knit them. I have some new socks for my collection because I don't have a lot yet, and great. I love it. I really love using up yarn. The only thing I have left are bare scraps that I had left over from weaving in the ends. So very pleased to know that 41 grams of yarn can give me a pair of socks. So yay. Those are my two cast-offs, and now it's on to works in progress. The one that has the most obvious change is the one that is in my Edinburgh Yarn Festival bag that is filled with cat hairs and yarn fluff. And that is my Summer Dream top by Knits with Chocolat. I knit the first front piece of the top, and I actually think it looks beautiful. You had to join over here, and then you knit it. And I actually knit this in one evening during a D&D session where I am a player, and it was actually great. It was very nice to knit on. The session wasn't very. It wasn't a session where I had to have a lot of attention, or I didn't need to pay a lot of attention. I didn't need to roll a lot of dice. It was very laid back, so that made it great to knit this. Next up, I need to knit the other side, so that's ready to be picked up. I'm knitting this as a knit along with some friends I have on WhatsApp, and it's actually quite nice to do this as a knit along because the pattern isn't always that clear. I also found some errors still in the pattern, and that way we can warn each other about possible errors, or you can discuss what the pattern designer means at certain points. So that's actually really great. I will try to also make detailed notes on my project page in Ravelry so that anyone else who is going to make this pattern will also be able to follow my notes, because I think that could be very helpful. To me, for some reason, even though this is written quite in a difficult way, this pattern is for some reason coming very naturally to me. So I don't know why that is, but I'm not complaining because that's great. I'm almost finished with the first ball of yarn. I still have this left. So I'm not quite sure if I am going to use that for this part, or if I am going to save it for the arm caps, for the sleeves. Because I think that might actually be a good idea because they don't require a lot of yarn, and then that way I won't have to weave in ends in the main front panel. So actually I think I'm going to do that now. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. So yeah, that's where I am with this. This week I'm hoping to do the other side of it and maybe already join in the round for the rest. And I'm really looking forward to how this pattern is going to knit up for the rest of the part. So yeah, this is the Summer Dream or Song d'été top by Knits with Chocolat. And now the last work in progress that I want to talk about is my Dissolve sweater. And I knit on this, but it's probably not that visible because I knit the second sleeve for a while, and then I noticed that I did not, in fact, have enough yarn per color to do the sleeve the way I wanted to with the Fibonacci sequin 2-5. So I ripped both sleeves out completely and started again. Or no, I ripped the sleeve out that was the farthest and I started again. So yeah, that was great. I haven't worked on it a lot since then because I was a bit demotivated, but I now have decided to work the sleeves separately and just do the Fibonacci sequence 2-3. Let's see, where am I? Okay, so I think, yeah, this is the one that I am currently working on, and this is how far I've gotten, which is not very far. I think that's like the third color or something, or maybe even the second. I also found out that I tried it on because I was already until here. I tried it on and I found out that it was way too big. So I recalculated the decrease rate and decided that instead of decreasing every 10th row or 11th row, I had to decrease every 8th row. So yeah, that's what I'm also doing now and will continue to do. This will probably be my TV knitting for this week, although I am kind of itching to cast on another pair of socks, but I'm gonna see if I can hold that off for a bit. The other sleeve is actually pretty much at the same point, but I still need to rip this out because this has the wrong decrease rate, so this is still gonna be frogged. But yeah, that's where I am with this. I just mainly wanted to show this because I think it's good to see for other people as well that maybe are beginner knitters that it doesn't always go the way you want it to, and you're gonna have to frog stuff, and that's completely fine because everyone has to frog stuff every now and again, even the most experienced knitters. And yeah, that's just part of it, and I think that's also the beauty of knitting is that you can actually just rip it out and redo it. You can rip it out as much as you want until it is the way you want it to look. Which is actually the main reason I love knitting, because I am a perfectionist and this is a way where I can just let my perfectionism go a bit, or I can just really work on my perfectionism the whole way through because I just can make it perfect. And I can let it go in the sense that sometimes, let me show you, because I made some mistakes on my socks. Let's see. These heels are perfect. Well, they're fine because I did the slip knit on this side in the way that so that you can have this nice edge over here. These are the second socks I made. These are the first socks I made, and you can see here in the beginning that it looks a bit weird. Let's see if I can focus. Get this to focus. You can see that over here you have the nice V's for the knit stitch, and here you have like kind of weird bumps. This is where I tried to use a knit two together on this side instead of a slip knit, and it didn't look right. But to be fair, I really was not feeling like taking it out again because I had retried some different things for multiple times and I was just kind of done with it. But no one's gonna see the heel of my sock. This is something that's gonna be in my shoe, and nobody's really gonna notice. And if they do notice, then it's fine, because it's just a sock. So in that sense, I have learned to let things like this go, because if no one's gonna see it, I'm just not gonna be bothered by it. I think it's fine. In the end, it's more for joy, and this way I can see, hey, I learned that I have to do a slip knit and not a knit two together when I am knitting heel flaps from the toe up. So I think that's actually just a great way to see that you have learned something. So yeah, that's something I love about knitting, is that you can make mistakes and either decide to go back and completely fix them, or make mistakes and think they look good enough and just continue on working on it. So yeah. Making mistakes actually brings me to something that I've completely forgot to talk about at the beginning of this episode, and that is the sweater I'm wearing. I will put in some other footage of the sweater because it's very difficult for me to show it right now. This sweater is the Firenze sweater. And it is something that I worked on off and on for I think more than half a year. The sweater did not want to work with me. I absolutely love the yoke. The yoke is beautiful. But the sizing on this pattern is not something that I would advise on using, because if I knit the circumference right, then the sleeves would be too narrow, and if I would do it the other way around, then the body would be way too big for me. So in the end, I ended up calculating my own number of stitches I needed for the yoke, and this completely ignoring the grading of the pattern. And I am very happy with the end result. I have knitted in Lana Grossa's Cool Wool Mélange in a burgundy colorway, and it's my absolute favorite colorway. It's yarn that I bought in 2010, I believe, and so it's the oldest yarn I have, and it's been frogged so many times. I've tried to knit a sweater out of it, and I took it out again because I used the wrong yarn, and I was a beginner knitter and I had to use bigger yarns and bigger needles for it. I have knit a shawl out of it, a circular shawl, and it was way too small and I couldn't wear it, so I frogged it again. And now I've made this sweater out of it, and I have been wearing it non-stop. And even though I've been wearing it non-stop, there's no pilling. There might be like a few tiny pills under my arms in the armpit section, but that's it. And I'm so impressed. This really is a workhorse yarn. I'm very sad that it is a superwash yarn and therefore is not really that ethical to use because of the environmental impact that superwash yarn has. Because if this were a yarn that is good for the environment, then I would use it all the time and I would buy it in as many colors as I could. I love working with it. It's smooth, it's soft, it knits up great. It's great for textured stitches, it's great for cables, which I love knitting. But yeah, it's not the greatest yarn in terms of the environmental footprint. But that said, I adore this sweater, and it's a great example of re-knitting or being able to make mistakes and just reusing the yarn and ripping it out, because that's exactly what has happened to this yarn. I think I restarted this pattern from like when I had already knit, already separated for the sleeves. I have re-knit this pattern over 5 times. So yeah, that's I'm actually quite proud that I managed to stick to it and not just give up, because I would give up on a pattern at that point. But yeah, I knit it and I'm actually quite proud of it. So that's what I was wearing this week. I have sort of an acquisition to talk about, but it's not your standard acquisition because it's kind of knitting related. I'll show you what I bought. I bought this. This is called Lentelicht. This is something I bought at my local bio store, or how do you call it in English? The organic store. And they are candles made of beeswax, and they're in the form of eggs. That's why they're in an egg carton. And I didn't actually buy these to use for lighting candles. I bought these to use for threading or adding wax to my threads when I am sewing on buttons. I will probably only need one of these, but yeah. I learned by watching the Crimson Stitchery podcast that she uses beeswax to make the thread glide better and also stick together more, I think. And I also think it adds a bit of strength, I'm not sure. And I've never heard of that, and I'd never done it before. So I figured I should buy some and try it, because I seem to be re-sewing a lot of buttons quite often, especially on store-bought items. And I think that this is a great way to just give it a go. I mean, no harm done. If I don't like it, then I can always just light it as a candle. Yeah, so that's what I bought. I'm quite interesting to see how this will go. So, yeah. I actually think that's all I have to talk about this week. Oh, I almost forgot to mention, I did get my sewing machine downstairs right before I started filming this podcast. So I will also be trying to steek my Woodlark shawl by the Fiber Tales podcast, or by Fiber Tales. Her name is Lyrica. Yeah, so I will be trying to steek that this week, and I might still cast on another pair of socks because I've been craving some very easy knitting, and I might actually just show you the yarn that I'm going to use for that. I already put that in a project bag, and the project bag looks a bit worse for wear. This is a bag that my mother got when I was very young. Let's see, I think I was about 10, maybe younger, I do not remember. And at some point I got it, I'm not sure why. It's leather bag, it's made of suede, and yeah, as you can see, it's seen better days, but it has some sentimental value to me because I love it. And it's also the perfect size for socks. The yarn that I plan on using is leftover yarns from other socks that I have knitted. This is the first yarn and the first leftover. This is Stranded Dye Works sock in the merino, 75% merino, 25% nylon, in the color Pigeon Fancier. And I have 2 equal sized balls. So I'm going to use these for the heel, cuffs, and toe. I think in total this is about 16 grams or 17 grams, so I think that should be enough. But maybe the toes will be just without this. We'll see what happens. So yeah, that's what I'm going to use for that. And then the other yarn I actually don't know the name of. I wound this by hand this morning. I do not have a Swift or a ball winder because I have never been able to justify it to myself. I am able to wind very nice balls, if I say so myself, which sounds a bit odd, but yeah, we're just gonna skip over that. I'm able to wind very nice balls by myself, by hand, by just using my knees or 2 chairs, and a method that I learned on YouTube at the beginning of my knitting career, I think. And because this is great because I can actually make this into a center pull ball. I don't use it a lot as a center pull ball anymore because I actually have started to prefer it as a ball that you just pull out from the outside. But I did this last time as well with other skeins or cakes. I can just put my thumb in it, and the way that I wind it is I can just go around, and then I turn it a bit, and then I go around again, and then I turn it a bit and go around again. And that's basically how I turn my thumb into a nustepinne, I think. Yeah, I think it's actually quite relaxing to do. And I just haven't been able to justify buying a Swift or a ball winder when I can just so easily do it by hand. Yeah, I might actually, if people would like to, I could show you guys how to wind balls by hand, because I think it is very, it's a good idea to be able to do this yourself if you don't have it at home, or if you're in an airport or on the road, and then this way you can still do it yourself without getting a round ball, because I personally don't like them because they run all over the place, and you either have to keep it in a bag or you have to put it in a bowl, in a yarn bowl, which I also don't have. And this way it's just very easy to use. Yeah, so let me know in the comments down below if you would like some kind of tutorial on that, because I would be willing to do that. Yeah, so let me know. And with that, we are, I think, at the end of quite a short episode. I don't think I will have a lot of time next episode or next week as well for knitting, because I am running a D&D campaign for work. So yeah, that means that I am the dungeon master or the storyteller, and I have less time to knit myself, and I have to prepare for that, and I also have to do a lot more during the game as well, especially since they are beginner players. I have to explain the rules and keep track of everyone's character and all that kind of stuff. So I won't be having a lot of time to knit. I'm kind of thinking that maybe then I should also take a bit longer before recording this, but I'll see. If I have some stuff to talk about, then I will definitely record, and if not, then I'll wait a bit longer. I am really still enjoying doing this, even though I am still super scared. I'm amazed that people are finding my channel and following it. I thank you so much for joining me. I really I'm very excited every time I get an email that I have a new follower. If you ever want to ask anything, then do comment down below. I will try to read and reply to every comment that I get. I would really like to meet some new people around in this way by using YouTube, and I think that's really cool. It's a really cool way to meet new people. I am thinking also of doing maybe a kind of different format for things like finished objects, to make a separate video for a finished object. So yeah, I'm quite curious to know what you guys would think about that. And also I've been thinking of making short episodes where I do kind of a designer spotlight. There's been one pattern designer specifically that I've really been a fan of, and I've been dying to cast on a pattern of hers for a while now. And I'm wondering if you guys would like to see an episode where I just talk about her patterns and maybe showcase some of her designs, and then it would be something that is short and sweet, but it's something that is standalone. So if you ever want to look up a certain designer, then you have a standalone video on YouTube that you can look at. So yeah, if you guys have opinions on that, then I'm very, very curious to know what you guys think. And I think with that, we are really at the end of this episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you get joy in whatever craft you enjoy doing. Don't forget to love each other, take care of each other, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye! Mandatory cat video with the couch being a mess after recording an episode. If you can hear some pattering in the background, that is a cat coming down the stairs right now. And now she's actually using the litter box. Yeah, let's cut this out.